Accessible research summary, Caregiving interventions in aging and developmental disabilities. Over 65 million people in the United States serve as caregivers for people who have disabilities, are chronically ill, or are older adults. This need will continue to get larger, especially as people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, or IDD, age. The majority of people with IDD live with family caregivers. While there are positive aspects to caring for a relative with IDD, many of these caregivers face challenges. For example, they often have more health issues such as depression and less access to health care. Because being a primary caregiver makes paid employment more difficult, caregivers may also have financial troubles. Although caregivers experience these difficulties, there are few interventions to support them and their families. The purpose of this article was to review the research literature on interventions for caregivers. The research looked at both aging research and research on IDD to determine how interventions differed in the two fields and what the two fields could learn from each other. Key findings: family support interventions, including small group support and training interventions, and government programs, benefited both caregivers who supported people with IDD and aging people. Caregivers benefited by improved mental and physical health and by feeling less caregiver burden. Caregivers especially had increased satisfaction and better access to supports when their family member received care coordination and respite services. Caregiver interventions also often help delay the placement of the relative in an institutional setting. Research on IDD interventions had a greater focus on positive outcomes, such as person-centered planning and employment, than aging interventions. Aging research included more creative ways to support families, such as using technology, arts programs, and by including people from different cultures. Although there was a lot of overlap between caring interventions in the field of aging and IDD, the two fields mostly remain separate, and the aging research rarely recognized the needs of aging people with IDD. More research is needed about older adults with IDD, including the role of siblings and other family members. This Accessible Research Summary Brief series is brought to you by the Institute on Disability and Human Development at University of Illinois at Chicago.